Here's a tweet from someone whose ego is about as big as the sun. Barack Obama posted this. He said, "Today, some of the books that shaped my life and the lives of so many others are being challenged by people who disagree with certain ideas or perspectives. And librarians are on the front lines, fighting every day to make the widest range of viewpoints, opinions, and ideas available to everyone." So that's what he tweeted. And then he included this letter. Let me see if I can pull it up. This is very interesting. You need to hear this. This is the letter that he posted as well. "To the dedicated and hardworking librarians of America. In any democracy, the free exchange of ideas is an important part of making sure that citizens are informed, engaged, and feel like their perspective matters. So important, in fact, that here in America, the First Amendment of our Constitution states that freedom begins with our capacity to share and access ideas, even and maybe especially the ones we disagree with. More often than not, someone decides to write those ideas down in a book." More often than not. So of all the ideas that have ever been had, more often than not, they are written in books. I don't think that makes any sense, but we're not going to we don't have time to get hung up on all the little details here. "Books have always shaped how I experience the world. Writers like Mark Twain and Toni Morrison, Walt Whitman, James Baldwin taught me something essential about our country's character. Reading about people whose lives were very different from mine showed me how to step into someone else's shoes. Blah, 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 blah. Today, some of the books that shaped my life and the lives of so many others are being challenged by people who disagree with certain ideas or perspectives. It's no coincidence that these banned books are often written by or feature people of color, indigenous people, and members of the LGBTQ plus community." All right. So the headline here is that Barack Obama has finally come out as gay. We knew it would happen eventually, and here we are. It finally happened officially. At least that must be what he's saying. I can only assume that's what he's saying, because he says that the books that are being challenged, quote unquote, are the ones that shaped his life. But literally the only books that anyone on the right is challenging are pornographic books about gay sex. Okay, those books are the focal, not just the focal point, they are the entirety of the discussion about quote unquote banning books that you find on the right. That's what we're looking at. Those are the only ones that anyone on our side has raised an objection to. And when it comes to challenging them, we have specifically challenged their presence in schools. We have challenged the schools that distribute pornographic books to kids. That is what we are challenging. That is the challenge that Barack Obama is referring to. That's it. That's the whole challenge. And so if some of these challenged books are what shaped his life, then we can only assume that his life was shaped by pornographic books about gay sex. That's what Barack Obama is saying. I'm not going to pretend it's breaking news. I'm not going to pretend it's a huge surprise, but that's what he's saying. And that, of course, as always, is when we hear about banned books from the left, that is always what they're talking about. Are we trying, on the right, are we trying to ban books? In a certain context, yeah, we are. We want to ban pornographic books from schools. Absolutely. We want to ban anyone, whether they're working at a school or not, from distributing pornographic material to children. That's what we're looking to do. But when they talk about book bans, that is 100% of the time what they're referring to. And you notice something else too, that it's very easy, it's very interesting and convenient that when you have people on the left like Barack Obama, who talk about the importance of being able to access ideas and access perspectives. He says it's our capacity to share and access ideas, even and maybe especially the ones we disagree with. Okay, he says freedom begins with that. That we can't have the First Amendment without that, without the ability to freely access and share ideas, including ones we disagree with. Well, it's really interesting that anytime they talk about that, they want to relegate it to books. And that's why he immediately in the next sentence makes the kind of odd claim that more often than not, these ideas people have are written down in books, which of course, most of the time, that's not the case. Like most people have never written a book. Everyone has ideas and opinions, and the vast majority of people will never write them in a book. Most people are not authors. So they want to relegate it to that. They want the conversation to be about books, physical books that you can go out and pick up and read. And even then, it's a much more limited conversation than that, because once again, no one is trying to ban books broadly. So what they're really talking about are books, and specifically pornographic books in schools. But you notice what they're leaving out of all this? What about the ideas and opinions that are shared in every other context? Like on social media, on the internet. Because everyone has ideas and opinions that they want to share. Almost no one, save a very small minority, are writing them in actual physical books. But most people in the modern world are sharing them online. And so if you really believe that freedom begins with our capacity to share and access ideas, then before we talk about books, you should be starting with social media needs to be a place where people can openly share their opinions, especially, Barack Obama says, the ones we disagree with. But he's not going to say that. Because he knows that in these forums, the exact forums where regular people actually do go to share and access ideas, most people are not writing books that end up in libraries, and most people are not going to libraries these days. But people are online. But it's in that forum of the internet where you're not going to hear someone like Barack Obama talk about the importance of free speech. Because it's exactly there where they want to shut down free speech, and they want to shut down the free exchange and expression of ideas and opinions. That's when their tone suddenly changes really drastically. And now, instead of talking about how freedom begins with our capacity to share and access ideas, now they're going to talk about things like stochastic terrorism, how you could be a terrorist for having a viewpoint that other people find disturbing. Yeah, they care so much about sharing and accessing ideas, but they think that you should be banned from every social media platform in the world if you say that a male is a man and not a woman. That's how much they care about free speech, obviously.